Tyler Matthews stared at the email on his phone screen, the words blurring as his hands trembled. Petition for custody modification glowed in bold letters from his ex-husband's lawyer. James was threatening to take Mason away again. The familiar knot in Tyler's stomach tightened as he pocketed the phone and looked across Laurelhurst Park, where his 7-year-old son chased a frisbee through the autumn leaves. Portland's October air carried the scent of rain and coffee from nearby food trucks. Tyler pulled his jacket closer, trying to steady his breathing. Coming out at 27 had cost him his marriage, nearly cost him his son, and left him building a new life from scratch as a freelance accountant. Every weekend at this park felt like borrowed time, especially when James's threats loomed over their fragile co-parenting arrangement. Mason's laughter cut through Tyler's anxiety as the boy stumbled over a tree root, the frisbee landing near a bench where another man sat watching. Tyler jogged over, expecting to apologize for the disruption, but stopped when he saw the man's face. Gentle brown eyes met his, and something in Tyler's chest shifted. The stranger looked tired, carrying the same weight Tyler recognized in his own mirror each morning. Aaron Chen had been watching his niece Lily play on the swings when the frisbee landed at his feet. He picked it up, noting the boy's scraped knee, and knelt down with practiced care. As a graphic designer, Aaron's hands were steady, but they shook slightly as he cleaned Mason's small wound with a tissue from his jacket pocket. Today marked exactly 1 year since his sister Sarah had died in a hate crime attack outside a Portland bar. The anniversary sat heavy in his chest, making even breathing feel deliberate. Tyler approached cautiously, taking in how naturally Aaron tended to Mason's injury. There was something familiar about this stranger's gentleness, the way he moved without urgency or judgment. When Aaron looked up, Tyler felt that same recognition reflected back at him. Both men carried secrets. Both understood the careful navigation required to exist authentically in a world that didn't always welcome them. The conversation that followed was light, surface-level talk about children and weekend routines. But underneath ran a current of understanding that neither man could name. Aaron mentioned he was watching Lily while working from home. Tyler shared that he brought Mason here every weekend after custody exchanges. Neither mentioned the deeper truths, the losses that had shaped them, the loneliness that brought them both to this park seeking something they couldn't articulate. When Mason's knee was bandaged and the frisbee returned, the afternoon had shifted into golden hour. Aaron gathered Lily's things slowly, and Tyler found himself doing the same with Mason's backpack. The goodbye felt premature, weighted with possibility neither man wanted to voice. As they walked in opposite directions toward their cars, both turned back once, catching each other in the same motion. The shared smile that passed between them held a promise that felt dangerous and necessary at once. That night, Tyler sat at his kitchen table reviewing client files, but his mind kept returning to those brown eyes and gentle hands. For months, he'd existed in survival mode, focused only on keeping Mason safe and their life stable. But today, for the first time since his divorce, Tyler had felt something other than fear. He felt hope. And in a life built around protecting his son from the judgment of others, hope felt like the most terrifying emotion of all. When you've spent years hiding who you are to protect what you love most, recognizing kindred spirits becomes both a gift and a risk worth taking. The Q Center on North Mississippi Avenue hummed with quiet conversation and the soft clink of coffee mugs. Tyler had found the Portland LGBTQ+ Resource Center through an online search for family support groups, though he'd circled the block twice before finally parking. 3 weeks had passed since the encounter at Laurelhurst Park, and Aaron's face had become a persistent presence in Tyler's thoughts. When he spotted the familiar figure across the community room, Tyler's pulse quickened with recognition and relief. Aaron had been attending the Q Center's Thursday evening support group since Sarah's death, finding solace in stories of other people navigating loss and identity in a city that prided itself on acceptance, but still harbored pockets of danger. When he saw Tyler entering with Mason, Aaron felt something unlock in his chest. The coincidence felt less like chance and more like the universe offering a second opportunity he'd been too afraid to create himself. The group discussion centered around chosen family and the challenge of building support systems when traditional ones failed. Tyler spoke briefly about his divorce, carefully avoiding details about James's threats. While Aaron shared fragments about becoming Lily's guardian after Sarah's death, neither man revealed the full scope of their struggles. But the partial truths they offered felt like small acts of courage in a room designed for safety. After the meeting, they found themselves walking slowly toward the parking area while Mason and Lily compared notes about their respective schools. The conversation flowed more easily than either had expected. Aaron's voice carried a quiet strength when he described his graphic design work for local nonprofits. While Tyler's accounting background had actually helped several community organizations manage their finances during the pandemic, their professional skills had both become tools for building the more inclusive world they wanted their children to inherit. The following Saturday, they met for coffee at Ristretto Roasters in the Pearl District. Aaron arrived first, choosing a table near the window where late morning light filtered through the glass. When Tyler appeared with Mason in tow, Aaron felt his heart rate increase in a way that had nothing to do with caffeine. They ordered drinks and pastries while the children gravitated toward the shop's small reading corner, leaving the men to navigate the delicate territory of getting to know each other. Tyler learned that Aaron had grown up in San Francisco's Richmond district, that he'd studied art at Portland State, and that he still struggled with guilt about not being able to protect Sarah from the violence that took her life. The confession came quietly, almost accidentally, as Aaron traced patterns on the table with his finger. Tyler responded by sharing his own guilt about coming out so late, about the impact his delayed self-acceptance had on Mason's early years, and the ongoing custody battle that kept him awake at night. Their conversation was interrupted by a sudden Portland downpour that sent pedestrians scurrying for cover. Aaron suggested they waited out at Powell's Books, just a few blocks away. The iconic bookstore provided shelter and endless distractions for curious children, while the adults found themselves gravitating toward the quiet aisles where conversations could continue in hushed tones, surrounded by the comforting presence of thousands of stories. In the art section, Aaron showed Tyler a book about using creativity for healing trauma. Tyler mentioned that he'd been thinking about taking Mason to the Lansu Chinese garden, having heard it was peaceful and educational. Aaron's face lit up with recognition and something that looked like hope. He'd been meaning to take Lily there too, to share something of his heritage with her while honoring Sarah's memory of their family's traditions. The invitation extended itself naturally, without pressure or expectation, just the recognition that some experiences were better shared. The rain had stopped by the time they emerged from Powell's, leaving the streets shining and the air cleaned. As they parted ways outside the bookstore, Aaron's hand briefly touched Tyler's arm. The contact was fleeting but electric, a physical confirmation of the emotional connection that had been building between them. Both men felt it, acknowledged it with a look that held more than words could express, and then stepped back into their separate lives, carrying the promise of whatever was beginning between them. That evening, Tyler helped Mason with homework at their kitchen table while NPR played softly in the background. When the boy asked about their new friends, Tyler realized he'd been smiling without awareness. For the first time since his divorce, Tyler felt like he was moving towards something rather than just away from his past. The difference felt monumental, like the first glimpse of sun after a long winter. Community and connection, he was learning, could be built one conversation at a time. The legal papers arrived on a Tuesday morning that started like any other. Tyler was reviewing quarterly taxes for a client when the courier knocked, delivering an envelope that would shatter the fragile peace he'd been building. James had filed for emergency custody modification, citing exposure to inappropriate lifestyle influences and demanding immediate restriction of Tyler's parenting time. The language was clinical, but Tyler could hear his ex-husband's voice behind every accusation. Mason had mentioned Uncle Aaron during a recent phone call with James, innocently describing their visits to the Chinese garden and weekend coffee adventures. That casual reference had triggered James's worst fears about Tyler's new life, fears that now threatened to tear apart everything Tyler had fought to protect. The court date was set for just 3 weeks away, barely enough time to mount a defense against accusations designed to portray Tyler as an unfit parent simply for being gay and dating. Aaron received his own crisis that same week when his parents arrived unannounced from San Francisco. David and Linda Chen had driven north with a car full of concerns and a suitcase full of expectations. They had heard about Aaron's roommate situation through family networks and had come to Portland to stage what amounted to an intervention. Their arrival coincided with Tyler's legal emergency, creating a perfect storm of external pressure that threatened to destroy what had been growing between them. The conversation with Aaron's parents took place in his small apartment overlooking southeast Portland's tree-lined streets. Linda Chen sat primly on the couch that doubled as Lily's reading nook, while David paced near the window, occasionally glancing at family photos that conspicuously featured Sarah, but carefully avoided any obvious signs of Aaron's sexuality. Their concerns, delivered in Mandarin-accented English, centered around Aaron's phase, and their worry that caring for Lily while confused about family structures would damage their granddaughter's development. Aaron felt the familiar childhood sensation of shrinking, of making himself smaller to avoid disappointing parents who had immigrated with such hope for their children's success. The pressure to conform, to choose family acceptance over personal authenticity, was a weight he'd carried since adolescence. When his parents suggested he return to San Francisco where they could help with Lily and introduce him to appropriate marriage prospects, Aaron felt the walls of his carefully constructed Portland life begin to crumble. The timing couldn't have been worse. Tyler was drowning in legal preparation, spending his evenings researching LGBTQ+ family law instead of enjoying dinner conversations with Aaron. The stress was affecting Mason too, the 7-year-old becoming clingy and anxious as he sensed the adult worry that filled their small apartment. Tyler found himself snapping at minor inconveniences, his patience worn thin by the constant threat of losing his son. Aaron's response was to withdraw, convinced that his presence in Tyler's life was the catalyst for James's renewed custody challenge. The guilt he'd carried since Sarah's death merged with new guilt about potentially destroying Tyler's relationship with Mason. Aaron began declining coffee dates, responding to texts with increasing brevity, and avoiding the places where they might accidentally encounter each other. He told himself it was protection, but it felt like abandonment. The breaking point came during a tense encounter at Laurelhurst Park, where both men had brought their children for what Aaron intended to be a goodbye visit. Tyler confronted the obvious distance, asking directly what had changed between them. Aaron's explanation about protecting Tyler from further complications felt hollow even as he spoke the words. Tyler's response was immediate and raw, pointing out that running away hadn't protected Sarah and wouldn't protect anyone else Aaron claimed to love. The argument was quiet but intense. Two men standing near the playground where they'd first met, trying to untangle fear from love while children played obliviously nearby. Aaron's decision to leave Portland felt like the responsible choice, but Tyler called it cowardice disguised as sacrifice. Both men were right and wrong simultaneously, caught between external pressures that demanded impossible choices between authenticity and security. As October turned to November, Portland's rain returned with characteristic persistence, matching the gray heaviness that settled over both men. Tyler threw himself into legal preparation, while Aaron began the process of extricating himself from freelance contracts and apartment leases. Neither was sleeping well. Both were short-tempered with the children who depended on them, and the connection that had felt so natural just weeks earlier now seemed like a dangerous indulgence they couldn't afford. The irony wasn't lost on either man that in trying to protect what they loved most, they were destroying the very thing that had brought joy and hope into their lives. But fear, as both had learned, was often stronger than hope, at least in the short term. The call came from Mariela Gonzalez, staff attorney at the Q Center, on a Thursday morning when Portland's November rain drummed against Tyler's apartment windows with particular intensity. She'd reviewed Tyler's case and wanted to meet immediately, bringing news that would change everything about his legal situation. The LGBTQ+ legal advocacy network had been monitoring James's lawyer, who had a pattern of using discriminatory tactics in custody cases that violated recent Oregon family court reforms. Mariela arrived at Tyler's apartment with a briefcase full of precedents and a determination that reminded Tyler why he'd moved to Portland in the first place. The city's reputation for progressive values wasn't just marketing, It was built on people like Mariella who fought daily battles to protect families like theirs. She explained that James's petition was not only legally weak, but potentially actionable as harassment, since it relied entirely on stereotypes about LGBTQ+ parenting that Oregon courts had repeatedly rejected. The strategy sessions took place at the Q Center, where a network of volunteers helped Tyler prepare testimony while others organized community support. Word spread through Portland's tight-knit LGBTQ+ family networks that one of their own was facing a discriminatory custody challenge. Parents from Mason School, members of Tyler's support group, and even clients who'd worked with his accounting services began offering to serve as character witnesses. The response was overwhelming and humbling. Meanwhile, Aaron was struggling with his own family crisis. His parents had extended their stay indefinitely, sleeping in his living room and filling his small apartment with tension and unwanted advice. David Chen had contacted old family friends in Portland's Asian American community, trying to build a case for why Aaron should return to San Francisco for Lily's sake. The pressure was constant and exhausting, wearing down Aaron's resolve to maintain the independent life he'd built since Sarah's death. The breakthrough came when Lily herself became an unexpected advocate. During dinner at Aaron's apartment, she casually mentioned missing Tyler and Mason and asked when they'd see them again. Linda Chen's sharp response about inappropriate friendships prompted Lily to ask why Uncle Aaron wasn't allowed to have friends like Mama Sarah did. The innocent question hung in the air, highlighting the contradictions in his parents' position. Aaron's decision to attend Tyler's custody hearing, despite his parents' objections, marked a turning point in both their lives. He arrived at the Multnomah County Courthouse on a gray December morning, joining a small crowd of supporters who'd gathered to demonstrate community backing for Tyler's family. The sight of familiar faces from the Q Center, parents from Mason's school, and neighbors from Tyler's apartment building created a visual representation of the chosen family Tyler had built in Portland. The hearing itself was less dramatic than the buildup had suggested. James's lawyer presented arguments that sounded increasingly outdated in the contemporary legal environment, while Mariella systematically dismantled each claim with case law and expert testimony. Mason's court-appointed advocate had interviewed the 7-year-old extensively and reported that the child was thriving in his father's care, with no evidence of confusion or harm from Tyler's relationship with Aaron. Judge Patricia Kawamoto's ruling was swift and decisive. Not only did she deny James's petition for custody modification, she issued a warning about future frivolous filings and ordered him to complete co-parenting education focused on supporting children with LGBTQ+ parents. The courtroom erupted in quiet celebration, the kind of restrained joy appropriate to a legal setting, but no less meaningful for its subdued nature. Aaron's parents had attended the hearing despite their reservations, invited by Aaron as witnesses to the life he'd built in Portland. Seeing the community support, the legal protections, and the obvious bond between Tyler and Mason forced them to confront their assumptions about LGBTQ+ families. David Chen's conversation with Tyler after the hearing was halting but genuine, an acknowledgement that perhaps they'd misunderstood what family safety looked like in 2023. The celebration that evening took place at a restaurant in Southeast Portland, where friends gathered to mark not just Tyler's legal victory, but the broader triumph of community over isolation. Aaron sat beside Tyler for the first time in weeks, their reconnection tentative but real. Lily and Mason played with other children while the adults shared stories and made plans for holiday gatherings that would include families of all configurations. Aaron's parents left Portland the following week, but not before David Chen had a private conversation with his son about love and acceptance that neither man would forget. Linda Chen's goodbye to Lily included a promise to visit again soon, and an acknowledgement that Portland seemed to suit both Aaron and his niece in ways San Francisco never could. The apology wasn't complete, but it was a beginning. When Tyler and Aaron finally had time alone together, walking through Laurelhurst Park on the first clear evening in days, they didn't talk about the weeks of separation or the pain they'd caused each other through fear and withdrawal. Instead, they talked about the future, about the community that had surrounded them during crisis, and about the children who'd remained constant sources of hope even when the appalled faltered. Some battles, they realized, were worth fighting together rather than alone. Spring arrived early in Portland, bringing with it a sense of renewal that felt particularly meaningful to Tyler and Erin as they planned their wedding. The ceremony would take place at Pioneer Courthouse Square on a Saturday in May, officiated by Reverend Sarah Mitchell from the Unitarian Universalist Church where they'd been attending family services. The location was chosen for its symbolism as Portland's living room, the place where the city gathered to celebrate diversity and community values that had protected their family when it mattered most. The months following Tyler's legal victory had been a period of careful rebuilding, both for their relationship and their extended chosen family. Erin's parents had returned to San Francisco with a better understanding of their son's life, while James had gradually adjusted to the reality of Tyler's relationship through the co-parenting education classes. The changes weren't dramatic, but they were genuine, creating space for Mason to move more freely between his parents' worlds without hiding important aspects of his life. Wedding planning revealed how deeply their lives had become intertwined with Portland's LGBTQ+ community. Mariela Gonzalez offered to coordinate legal documentation, ensuring their marriage would provide maximum protection for both children. Friends from the Q Center volunteered for everything from flowers to photography, while parents from Mason's school contributed to a potluck reception that would follow the ceremony. The event was growing beyond their original vision of something small and private into a celebration of the community that had sustained them. Mason and Lily embraced their roles as ring bearer and flower girl with enthusiasm that reminded both men why they'd fought so hard to build this life together. The children had adapted to their new family structure with the resilience that adults often envied, accepting Erin and Tyler's relationship as simply another variation of love in a world full of different family configurations. Their easy acceptance had become a source of strength for the adults who were still learning to navigate public displays of affection and legal protections they'd never taken for granted. Erin's artistic background influenced every aspect of the ceremony design, from the simple floral arrangements featuring Portland's native plants to the hand-lettered programs that included quotes about chosen family and community support. Sarah's memory was honored throughout the planning process, with her photograph displayed alongside other family pictures and her favorite flowers included in Lily's bouquet. Erin had learned to carry his sister's memory forward rather than being paralyzed by it, a lesson that informed his approach to marriage as well. The night before the wedding, Tyler sat in his apartment reviewing the vows he'd written and rewritten dozens of times. The words needed to capture not just his love for Erin, but his gratitude for the community that had made their family possible. Outside his window, Portland's skyline glittered with the lights of a city that had become home in ways he'd never expected when he first moved here after his divorce. The sense of belonging was still new enough to feel miraculous. Saturday morning dawned clear and bright, unusual for Portland in any season, but particularly striking in May. Pioneer Courthouse Square filled gradually with wedding guests who represented every aspect of Tyler and Erin's lives in Portland. Co-workers and clients mixed with neighbors and friends from the support groups, creating the kind of diverse gathering that reflected the city's values of inclusion and acceptance. The ceremony itself was brief but deeply personal, with vows that acknowledged both the joy of finding each other and the community that had sustained them through crisis. Tyler's voice trembled slightly as he promised to honor Sarah's memory while building a future that would make her proud. Erin's vows included gratitude for Tyler's courage in fighting for their family when fear might have been the easier choice. Both men struggled with emotion as they exchanged rings, simple bands that Mason and Lily had helped select. Reverend Mitchell's blessing emphasized the spiritual significance of chosen family and the responsibility of community to protect and nurture love in all its forms. When she pronounced them married, the cheers from their gathered friends echoed across the square, drawing smiles from tourists and passersby who stopped to witness Portland's ongoing commitment to marriage equality. The kiss that sealed their union was photographed by dozens of people, creating memories they'd treasure and share with children who would grow up knowing their family's origin story. The reception at Tom McCall Waterfront Park continued the celebration with food representing the cultural diversity of their chosen family and live music from local artists who donated their time. Speeches ranged from funny stories about early awkward encounters to serious reflections on the legal and social progress that made their marriage possible. Mariela Gonzalez spoke about the importance of visible LGBTQ+ families in advancing civil rights, while Mason surprised everyone by delivering his own toast about having two dads who taught him that love was something to be proud of rather than hidden. As evening fell over the Willamette River, Tyler and Aaron found themselves standing apart from the celebration, watching their friends and family continue the party while they absorbed the magnitude of the day. The legal protections were important, but the community support felt even more significant. They'd built something together that was larger than just their relationship, a network of chosen family that would sustain their children long after they were grown. 6 months later, Tyler and Aaron were co-facilitating the Q Center's family support group, sharing their story with other parents navigating the complexities of LGBTQ+ family life in an evolving social landscape. Mason thrived at his inclusive elementary school, while Lily started kindergarten with confidence that came from knowing her family was celebrated rather than tolerated. James's interactions with Tyler had evolved into genuine co-parenting, awkward but respectful, focused on Mason's well-being rather than past grievances. Aaron's parents visited for holidays, their relationship with their son still complicated but no longer defined entirely by fear and misunderstanding. David Chen had begun reading books about LGBTQ+ families, while Linda had started following Aaron's graphic design work with pride she'd never previously expressed. The changes were gradual but meaningful, proof that acceptance could develop over time when love provided the foundation. The tree they'd planted together at Laurelhurst Park the weekend after their wedding had grown noticeably in just 6 months, its roots establishing themselves in Portland soil while its branches reached toward Oregon sky. Like their family, it required attention and care. But the foundation was strong and the future looked bright. Have you ever found the courage to fight for love when everything seems stacked against you? What does chosen family mean in your own life? Share your thoughts below. Someone out there needs to hear your story. Subscribe to Heart Stories for more tales of resilience, community, and the quiet revolutions that happen when ordinary people choose love over fear.